Hey, it's Sick Boy for the Gaming Antis Collective, and welcome to today's Anarchic Eye. Got a few bits of news to get through today. Firstly, an absolute shocker for you. Activision have announced that there's going to be a Call of Duty this year. Can you believe it? I bet you didn't think this was going to happen. I bet you thought, do you know what? $250 million in one day? They're definitely not going to make another one of these. But guess what? They're going to do that. They haven't announced a date yet. But I'm going to just confidently take a wild guess and say the second Friday in November. Because that's when it always is. Bit of bad news, but a bit of good news. Well, it's very unfortunate news, but good news for some people. But Rayman Legends, which was meant to be a Wii U exclusive, is now going to go multi-plat. So that's good news, because it should have been multi-plat in the first place. I don't really like the idea of exclusives. Fortunately, it's going to mean a significant delay to the release on the Wii U. It's already been put back. It was meant to be coming out this month, and it's been pushed back again. And the developers on this product are absolutely livid. And this is something that I've mentioned before, that it really shows the divide between the creative developers and the dipshits who run the marketing side of things. Now, an anonymous poster who works for Ubisoft has made a statement about this, and he's furious. I'm going to read it out. It's originally in Spanish. Hang on, I've got it down here. It's from the Spanish forum EOL, by a user from Zeta69, who apparently has worked on Far Cry 2 and other Ubisoft titles. Anyway, he's allegedly working on Rayman, and he's released a statement in Spanish. This is as translated by NeoGaf. Okay, because I really couldn't be bothered to do this myself. Right, this is not a decision taken by the development team. This comes from really, really high up, so please don't pick on the game. If you're pissed, imagine how we feel. Think of the situation we've been making overtime with the game practically since May, preparing E3, and then almost a demo per month, Gamescom, Wii U presentation, shops, eShop, etc., and at the same time trying to actually finish the game. We had to first delay because it was obviously couldn't finish on time, but we gave it our all and to be there for February. What face do you think we had the week we had to close the game off? We were told it was not going to be released. I couldn't believe it. For practical matters, you'll have to wait for some months for the game to be released, and will most likely serve for more content to be added and do it better. For us, this means we've spent 6 months barely seeing our wives, kids and friends for nothing, because after all, such haste wasn't needed. Believe it, it was hell to swallow this news. Even then, I'm firm in what I said back in the day. Rayman Legends was an excellent game and will still be, and the team that's making it don't deserve to have your back turned on them just because some men in ties one day took the wrong choice. This industry is really that shitty. And he's absolutely right. This is the problem, and it's something that I've mentioned before. I think it's something that we all need to bear in mind. Generally, not in all cases, because there are some developers who are absolutely pricks, naming no names, Ninja Theory. But there are hard workers, even people who work for these developers, that do come across as dicks. There's hard-working coders, script writers, level designers. They work their arse off. I mean, there was some poor woman, the people driven to suicide working on games. Capcom are particularly bad slave drivers, working their developers literally to death. These people are artists, they are game creators, they are passionate about what they want. So no matter how we may feel about the industry and how we feel it's taking advantage and taking the piss, we need to accept and realise that for the most part, the people making these games are not the people we need to be pointing the finger at. It is the dipshits who deal with the marketing issue. Basically, from what I hear, and this is purely speculation from what I can tell, that it's because the Xbox 360 port was being problematic, and so they've delayed everything in order to allow for a multi-plat release. Now, I can see why, if you were a commercial person, I see why you made this decision. One, it's because you're a heartless shit who doesn't really care about the developers who've worked their guts out, or the people who've been waiting for this game for absolutely ages. But because previously this game was a Wii U exclusive, no one who has a PlayStation 3 or an Xbox gave a monkeys about Rayman Legends, because we didn't think we were going to get it. Nobody thought they were going to get it. It was a Wii U exclusive, that was clear. It does raise the questions as to how strong Ubisoft is on its exclusives. I mean, you obviously don't have your deals that well signed up if you can just turn around and Welsh on the deal. So it's kind of good news for, it's good news for PS3 and Xbox players, It's a pisser. It's a pisser for Wii U, and it's more of a pisser for the developers. I feel sorry for you guys. Your hard work, you know, your absolute slog to get this out has been taken advantage of, and they've just used it just because they want to have one launch, one advertising campaign, one concerted sales push, and then let it sit on. Then let what hasn't been sold in the first week sit on the shelves. That's how this industry operates. It's all about week one sales, day one, week one. Beyond that, shift the stock as best you can. That's why they try and entice you in with DLC. That's why they try and get these pre-order bonuses, because they don't want to pay for advertising beyond the first week or so. They want to advertise leading up to the product launch, and then they want to advertise when it has just been launched, and then they want to leave it alone and move on to their next product. Right, so next bit of news. Again, this is more commercial bullshit. Sony have come out and they have said that they need to do a better job and they need to promote the Vita more. I wholeheartedly disagree. You don't need to promote the Vita more, Sony. What you needed to have done was to have created a different handheld. You've done the same thing you did with the PSP. The Vita, don't get me wrong, is an incredible piece of technology. It's really impressive. As a handheld device, it's incredibly powerful. It's got the touchscreen back. It's a brilliant device. Really is a brilliant device. And the 3DS, which is a lot cheaply made, being sold cheaper, has, you've done all these little shitty things, like you've made your own custom flash memory that costs a fortune, and it was priced too high, and it was too much tech for what was needed. Nintendo aren't always perfect, but what they have done very well with the 3DS. I know they've created the 3DS and the 3DS XL, which really gets on my fucking nerves. They really should just build one model and just have it going on with. I understand doing the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color like 10 years later, but you know, well, it wasn't 10 years, but it must be about 5-6 years. I'm not going to bother looking that up at this point, but yeah, it was a long time between the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. I had the original one that was the size of a house. I never had a tiny little Game Boy Color. Then the Game Boy Advance, which was, you know, tiny, and then led to the whole sort of DS style of the flip-up screen. You know, the advanced the flip-up Advance. You know, good stuff. So they have done some shitty things, Nintendo, and they have overused this model, but they have pitched their game. They've got better games, not basically just ports of games that are out on the major consoles. They have got some very, very strong games. This year, the 3DS has an incredible lineup, and the Vita can't cope with it. And what you've got the Vita, you know, you've got games that are being simultaneously released, either a direct Vita version of a game, a spin-off or something like you did with Assassin's Creed 3, or you did something like Street Fighter Cross Tekken and released the same game on 2 systems. You know, that's showing that you're not, you know, that the developers aren't doing the job with the Vita, and Sony haven't done their job with the Vita. It's nothing to do with promotion. It's to do with you've got the wrong product. It's a great product, but really, for what it is, you could play on a tablet. And the new gaming tablet, for example, you're not going to sell your Vita with, you know, the Vita when you've got, you know, mini gaming tablets and things that are going to blow you out of the water. Sorry, Sony. As with always, the PSP was a great piece of tech, but hardly anyone bought it. It's just the way it goes. You fucked up your marketing strategy. You developed the wrong product. You don't need to sell it better. You needed to have made something else. Anyway, next thing. Oh yes, more technology fun. The Ouya. I'd best clarify for those who aren't aware what the Ouya is. It was a Kickstarter product for a new kind of console. And it's a mini, low-cost console. It's about kind of this big. It's like, you know, the size of it's like the size of a coffee cup. And it runs off Android. I think it runs off Ice Cream Sandwich. And it's an open source for development. And it's going to be a small, fairly powerful Android device. So you're going to be able to play Android games. So anything that's available on an Android tablet or something is technically going to be something that can be available and to play on your large TV. I mentioned in the last one the price. It's $99 or £99 for some reason. They don't like converting currencies. And the extra controller is somewhere, I think, on the region of, I think it's £50 or $50. And it has a touchscreen component to it. Not an actual touchscreen, but it has a touch point on the pad as well. It's very Xbox 360 looking, the controller. Looks impressive. It does look impressive. It's a low cost console. However, something they brought out just as I had uploaded my video saying about the Ouya, the CEO of the company has come out and has said that they're intending to follow the mobile platform model and release a new model of the Ouya every year. I don't like that. That's warning bells for me. That is warning bells. That leads me to think it's going to be the same as the iPhone. It's going to be this hipster thing where you've got to get the new one. The difference between the iPhone 4 and the iPhone 4S and the iPhone 5? A different jack and slightly different, slightly improved. Is it worth the money? To me, no. If you didn't have an iPhone, fine, buy an iPhone 5. If you had an iPhone 4S and bought an iPhone 5, I think you are a mug. I'll be honest. And there are some concerns for me about the Ouya thing because I don't know how much of an upgrade it's going to be. So is it just going to be a slight upgrade? I mean, if it's going to be a software update, then that should be done to the original model. If it's going to be a hardware update, is it going to mean that eventually you buy an Ouya at launch, 2-3 years later you can't then play the new games on the platform? That's a problem. That raises a question. That arguably then makes it as expensive, if not more, than the Xbox and the PlayStation 3. Well, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox 720, because when you think about when they launch, they're going to be about $400, about £300, and if you buy an Ouya for $100 or £100, and you have to replace it 3-4 times, it's the price of a PlayStation 4. That's poor. That is poor. This is meant to be a low cost, essentially to allow indie developers to create their games, easy for them to get into the console market, because the console market is a real pisser. I mean, the Xbox Live Arcade is a notorious bastard for people getting on there. The PSN's not much better. There isn't much of a platform for these indie developers to get their opportunity to get on these systems without publisher help. Which is why you have the audacity of large publishers releasing indie bundles, which is a fucking insult. So, you know, I thought it was going to be good to allow for some creative new game experiences, things like the Unfinished Swan, stuff like that, things that are unique and interesting to be on this platform, and it still does, but that raised an eyebrow to me, and that's a potential warning for potential shitty business practices to come with this business, which is a shame since they were publicly funded. Okay, this is no surprise really to anybody, but it's worth mentioning. Anyone picking up Colonial Marines, which does look good. I'm liking what I see so far. There is going to be a season pass. There is going to be DLC. I don't know how much of it is going to be, but it looks like a lot of it is going to be multiplayer modes. Personally, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, feel free to put your 2 cents in there in the comments below. What do you think? If you're going to do DLC, is it good to do multiplayer modes, like with Call of Duty, rather than map packs and things like that? Would it be better if they said, right, well, if you want the hardcore map, you want the hardcore game modes, pay for the hardcore game modes? Or is that unfairly taxing the hardcore player? Personally, my default position is all of this should have been on disc and part of the original release. I don't like the idea that they're holding back multiplayer modes. I understand the strategy that you're trying to have longevity in your multiplayer. So they're going to add one of them that they've announced is going to be a horde mode. I'm not too keen on that, but also totally not surprised. Capcom. Nothing particularly shitty from Capcom today. One thing that is a little bit of an eyebrow raiser is Capcom have done a poll that I think runs to the end of March, asking what is your favourite Street Fighter character. I can only assume they're collating this data, and anything outside of Ryu or Ken that comes out of that list is going to turn up as on-disc DLC for the next bloody Street Fighter game. That's all I can guess. You know, maybe they're learning their lesson. Maybe they want to include forgotten favourites, people who characters who have dropped out in the past. I don't see why they don't create a fighting game with all of their canonical Street Fighter characters. Call me old-fashioned, but I think it's better to give people everything. I'd rather have the choice. I'd rather have 50, 60 characters to pick from. You know, but so, you know, it's part of Capcom's drive to show that they're trying to listen to their consumers, but my suspicions are slightly aroused on this, because it may well be a case of they're pretending to listen to the consumer so they can rinse a bit of money out of them later. But you know, time will tell on that. Another thing is, there's been another poll, funnily enough, from the PPP, who they've asked about video games. Which is more dangerous, guns or video games? Now, I believe this was a telephone poll, automated telephone poll. So the question that they asked: what do you think is a bigger safety threat in America, guns or violent video games? Okay, 19% weren't sure. I'll give you that. You've been blindsided by a telephone poll and you say you're not sure. 14% of people said it was guns. 67% of people said video games. So the vast majority of people on this poll, and I believe it was about 800, I think it was 800 people, and they tried to make a fair split between Republicans and Democrats, believe video games are more dangerous than guns. Now, this is a bit of a loaded question, because in America, the right to bear arms is enshrined in your Constitution. So, asking what is more dangerous, well, you can't defend yourself with a video game. So I think a lot of people are going to think, and it shouldn't be an either or. It's a stupid fucking question. Really, it is a stupid question. What is more dangerous, okay? What is more dangerous? Polar bears or Volkswagen Golfs? You're probably going to say a Volkswagen Golf, because more people die from Volkswagen Golfs than polar bears. But clearly, polar bears are more dangerous. But in this case, of course, this is entirely arbitrary, because there are no deaths related to video games. Even people who mimic video games in their death, it's still not. It's down to the mental illness of the person who commits the crime, not down to the video. There's nothing dangerous about video games. 67% of people believe that it's down to video games. Violent video games are more dangerous than guns. Well, that's interesting. Right. Enough of this. I just want to finish off on a little personal bit. Just want to go through a few little interesting pickups, because I've been trying to pick back up and rebuild some of my retro games that I used to have or could have had and never got round to getting. So I've been trying to rebuild my PS2 collection, because my PS2 died a while back and I got a replacement. Back when I got it, when I first got my Xbox 360, I got rid of a lot of my PS2 games that I didn't really want to keep, and now I'm buying ones back that I've had in time. So I just want to go over a few of these, just as a bit of a trip down memory lane to those of you who were gaming back in the PS2 days. This one I'm particularly happy with. A brand new copy, Tony Hawk's 4. Back when Tony Hawk's was good. This was back in the day when Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was really fucking good. This was the one, if you remember, or if you don't remember, this is the one where they actually removed the 2-minute timer. Because originally you had 2 minutes to do all this, and you had to just keep replaying the level, and it could get a bit tedious. This gave you the open level and go through it in your own time. You know, just great fun. Always good fun. Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk, you know, 2 was all right. 3 wasn't quite, you know, wasn't great. 4, for my money, best in the series. So very glad I got that. I got these for absolutely dirt cheap. Another thing which is good, a series that I hear a lot about and I've never had a chance to play. They're absolutely legendary, really. And it's Shin Megami Tensei, and I've got the Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2, brand new, sealed. Again, cost me next to nothing. So thank you, Amazon. So I'm going to be having a good play on those. A few games that I used to have back in the day. Bouncer. When Squaresoft used to make brilliant games. This is a fantastic classic fighter. Proper beat 'em up. Absolutely love it. I also got Tenchu, Wrath of Heaven. Anyone who ever played Tenchu? Brilliant. Brilliantly just gory, stealthy. You customise your kind of loadout. You have smoke bombs and stealth kills and everything. Brilliant fun, Tenchu. I also got a few things that I again used to have but never got rid of. The Suffering 1 and 2. Very happy with that as well. That's terrific. The Punisher. I love this game. I so should never have got rid of it. If you never played this game, you see over here, unique ways to punish a crime there. What that was you could get certain people and you could torture them to get information out of them. And so you had either a drill or, yeah, there's loads of ways of doing it, and you could ease them. You had to get the balance just right to scare them to the point where they broke and gave you information. Surprisingly brilliant third-person shooter, this. One of Bungie's earlier titles, Oni. Nice. Like Oni. And this was an absolute laugh when this came out. Onimusha 3 with Jean Reno. That's class. It's one of the first games I remember playing that actually had what seemed to me as a realistic depiction of an actor. This came, I think, just after Ronin, the film Ronin. So it was at the point where he was big in his Hollywood success. Also, Christ, I've forgotten the name of the film with him and Gary Oldman. I can't remember if I've forgotten it. Leon, amazing film, amazing. Survival horror. If you haven't played this and you have a PS2, oh, for Christ's sake, pick up the thing. This is actually one of the best survival horrors for my money ever. If you've seen the original John Carpenter's Thing, this is the sequel. This is the direct sequel to the original thing. You know, they made a prequel film recently. This actually follows the film. There's recordings of... I think it's actually even got Kurt Russell's voice in there. I don't know what it says. I seem to remember they actually used Kurt Russell's voice from the original film. And it's recordings, and you see what happened, and it gives you more what happened, because the end of the film is incredibly vague. It's just the last two guys sitting there, and it goes dark. And this gives a lot more information. And it also has one thing that's fantastic for its time, is it had like a companion trust. You could give them ammunition and things, and it was like the film, so that they would start to distrust you or trust you more. And you never knew when someone in your squad was going to have been replaced by the thing. So this game's terrific. Absolutely love this. I already have a copy, but I really wanted the original. Well, not the original, because it's not the Dreamcast version, but Resident Evil Code Veronica X with the original Devil May Cry demo on. Ah, that makes me very happy. Here you go, the original PS2 Devil May Cry demo. That makes me smile. Manhunt 2. Class. I'm still waiting on Manhunt 1 to be delivered, because I again got rid of that. Interesting pro tip, if you ever play Manhunt, and you have the old SOCOM headset for the PS2, if you plug it in, you get Brian Cox throughout the game whispering in your ear directly, and also you could use the microphone, because you know in the game you can knock on things and throw things to make sound. You can actually shout into the microphone to make sound. Makes the game way more immersive and really tense. Max Payne 2, The Fall of Max Payne, just, you know, because awesome game. And this is really what I wanted to do this all for. I've already got this game on 3 platforms. I had this on 3 platforms: the PS2, the GameCube, and the Wii. Resident Evil 4. This is the Steelbox edition. I didn't have the Steelbox originally. I got rid of this when I got the Wii U, the Wii version, and I regretted it, because the reason I regretted it is back when Capcom were awesome, they used to do some fantastic things, and this is one of those things. This is a Resident Evil 4 PS2 controller. Now I've plugged it in, but it literally, you can see here, it's got the full layout. You've got your dual analog sticks. See here, you've got L1 and L2, R1 and R2 here, and you literally hold it like this, and it has a gyroscope. If you can hear. Because when you play this game, you raise it up, Leon raises his gun. Down, gun goes down. Gun up, gun down. And you have a proper trigger button. So you have aim and a proper trigger button. And also, this is fucking awesome. How fucking cool is that? I've had it in a box for ages and haven't used it in absolute years. Which is why I regret getting rid of my PS2 version and then my PS2 Blue. But I am going to have so much fun playing the original Resident Evil 4 on the PS2 with this. So you can see it's got a little... I think it was only 50,000 or... Yeah, 50,000 of these made. So they're still not... If you wanted to get hold of one, you have a PS2. They're not all that rare. You can get hold of them. I got this out of a game station in the UK for about, I think, £20, so $30. Absolute bargain. Absolute bargain. You can switch modes as well, so here you can turn it on, turn the motion, everything off and on, and just use it as a normal. If you had it like that, you see it's kind of like an original, it's kind of like a PlayStation controller. You hold it diagonally. Your trigger buttons are here. So you can play it. You can play normal PlayStation 2 games, but it is a bit awkward. But How fucking awesome is that? That just makes me smiley. Just thought I'd share that with you guys because I'm very happy, and I'm probably going to spend a bit of my weekend playing through Resident Evil 4 again with that awesome controller. Anyway, thanks a lot for bearing with me through that little bit of boringness after the news. I just thought it'd be a bit of fun to get it out there. And thanks a lot. You guys have been looking through the 2020 vision of the Anarchic Eye. Catch you later.